Hey, it's Brent. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Life 101. All the things that you should have learned in school you just never, ever did. Today, it's a big one because we're going to be talking about happiness. It's really what we're all searching for. We all just want to be happy and okay inside. No matter what it is we think we want in the outer world, what we really want is to be okay and happy in our inner world. So today we're going to take a deep dive. I'm going to talk about happiness. I'm going to tell you the two kinds of happiness. There's the temporary fleeting happiness and the permanent bliss-filled everyday happiness you can attain. I'll tell you about them, and it's a good one today. So sit back, relax, open your minds, and get ready because it's time for another episode of Life 101. You know, happiness, it's the sole purpose of life, but it's not something that happens without effort. In every one of our lives, obstacles continuously turn up as we make our way through life. And many of us never fully realize this most fundamental of all of life's aims, except for brief interludes of happiness. Often our experience of happiness is so fleeting that we obsessively hark back to the good times and generally feel restless and unsatisfied the rest of the time. We were happy when we were young. That is a common refrain, the good old days. In reality, when we were really young, we were anxious and awkward. We had bad skin and a host of other problems, or we were truly happy on that summer vacation when in truth we were bored and badly sunburned. Or I was happy when I was with Mary, although there were sufficient reasons for you to leave Mary or for Mary to leave you, and on and on and on. Something happened, things changed, and along with the change went our happiness. We can create the fundamental causes that lead to indestructible, everyday happiness. The so-called secret that makes it possible to enjoy life fully, not just to pursue happiness, but to actually catch and hold onto the here and now, right as you are. But first, it is necessary to define happiness so that we know exactly what we are seeking. Americans believe firmly in their right to the pursuit of happiness. When compared with other things that people hope for, health, wealth, success, status, happiness is rated highest for most of us, along with life and liberty, without which it is largely an irrelevant consideration. Happiness is at the very foundation of our way of life. It's worth pointing out, though, that Thomas Jefferson's famous pursuit of happiness is thought by many scholars to mean free enterprise, that it is the ability of individuals to pursue their economic destiny, unfettered by foreign regulations and burdensome taxes. It was part of the new world view of the period, that if people were left alone to pursue their economic ambitions, something that had been denied to colonists in Europe, this liberated condition would constitute happiness. Today, amid material comfort and affluence undreamed of in Thomas Jefferson's time, we know this definition is incomplete. Mighty capitalists and billionaire builders of great personal fortunes are not necessarily happy people. Nevertheless, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness have increasingly become the new American ideal. While it is undeniably enjoyable to go out and purchase all the toys that we believe will make us happy, it's also true that the joy we feel is fleeting. It never lasts very long. The new car excitement fades quickly when we get the reality of the continued car payments. New clothes wear out or quickly go out of style. We try to recreate the joy of the initial purchase by buying more. That's what we do over and over and over again. So it's no surprise that we have this belief that we would be happier if we just had more money, more possessions, more things. become conventional wisdom, myths about happiness. The predominant view of happiness suggests that in addition to wealth, fame, success, youth, and beauty, they're all critical components of being happy. You need those. After all, aren't the young, rich, famous, and good-looking people happier? Doesn't the one who collects the most toys win the game of life? Psychologists and researchers who have long focused on analyzing the causes of unhappiness have come up with amazing findings. Depression, stress, and grief. They are beginning to focus their attention instead of the negatives on the positives, on happiness. And their conclusion is that happiness is not what most people suppose it to be. Astonishingly, they have found repeatedly that differences among people that we take as significant indicators of happiness. That is what the problem is, such as money, age, gender, health, race, education, employment, and geography. They have minimal effects on overall satisfaction in life. Startling as it may seem, circumstances have little to do with happiness. Compounding the problem is the tendency to compare ourselves with others. Against these illusionary standards, increasing the sense of restlessness and dissatisfaction that fuels unhappiness. We strive to keep up with everyone else because they appear to be happier than we are. It turns out that in all the usual areas of comparison, they probably aren't the problem. They aren't as happy. We just believe that they are. It's just a misperception that creates real unhappiness where none existed before. Now listen, advertisers exploit our willingness to compare ourselves with the images of others who appear to be better off. And consequently, they make them happier than us. That's what we think, that those people are happier, bombarding us with images of people whose elegant possessions and extravagant lifestyles and gorgeous bodies and harmonious families awaken our envy. They enlarge our circle of comparisons and whet our appetite for what others have. This manufactured unhappiness is used as a motivator to get us to purchase the missing ingredient of our happiness. It is also widely believed that we would be happier if we had fewer problems, or that once the problem we are immediately facing is resolved, happiness will result. But it never happens that way. Today's problem is replaced by new problems in an unending procession. We seem barely to have a chance to catch our breath before new challenges confront us. The way of thinking equates problems with unhappiness. Is it possible to establish a problem-free life for any significant length of time? No sustainable happiness. Sustainable happiness is not the absence of problems. Worldly troubles may arise. Death will happen. But the trick is not to let them disturb you. No one can avoid problems, not even the wisest of sages. Everybody has problems, yet we all know people with enormous problems who are happy, and people with every advantage who are miserable. Life is, you got to look at it in terms of an accumulation of suffering, arising within the eternal cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. There are other kinds of suffering. Certainly losing a loved one, depression, being fired from a job, living in poverty within an affluent society, experiencing the barriers of race, all of which add to suffering and anguish. At the most fundamental level, we recognize that life is filled with problems. This existential outlook has begun to percolate through Western culture. Life is difficult are the opening words of M. Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled, one of the most popular self-help books ever written. This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. It explains that the first of the four noble truths taught by the Buddha. And in those, you understand that life means difficulty. And when you understand this, we're liberated. because it helps us to understand problems and suffering as natural parts of life, not as signs of our inadequacies. There is a saying, a small heart gets used to misery and becomes docile, while a great heart towers above misfortune. The fact that life is filled with problems is no reason to be depressed, downhearted, or resigned to a miserable fate. Happiness, you can find it in the midst, rather in the absence of problems, in the midst of problems. There are so many reasons that people are unhappy, but for the most part, it's delusion. They believe the predominant myths that our culture propagates about happiness. The only difference between someone who has attained true happiness and someone who's living their everyday life, they are deluded. The person living their everyday life is deluded, does not realize that there is more. Human beings fail to understand the true nature of happiness. As a result, we're often unable to find it because we're always looking in the wrong places. We're trying to meet our realistic expectations of achieving happiness, and they're unrealistic. It takes more than effort. We must know what happiness is, what it is not, and most important, have a practical method for getting it. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be back tomorrow with the second half of happiness, how to attain it, because this is really what it's all about. If someone could grant one wish to you, it doesn't matter what you wish for, because what you really want is happiness. You want to be okay inside. Everything else are just things that you think will make you happy. Why not go directly to the source, cut out the middleman? So we're going to be talking this week about happiness as we move into the weekend. We have 2 more installments here, and I know you're going to enjoy them. If you've not joined our Facebook group, why not? We are a fantastic community growing each and every day. Like-minded people supporting and empowering each other. This is how it works, because when we do that, we support, we empower ourselves, and then we lift up those around us, and little by little, we can make lasting change in the world. We'd love to have you as a member. It's free. It's a fantastic group. Join us, facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tons of videos each and every day, including our new guided meditations that people are enjoying. So please show us some love, like, subscribe, and comment on those videos. It's youtube.com/Taylor Webb Television. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Go out and enjoy yourself no matter where you are in the world. It is a beautiful day. You're alive, you're well, you're a spiritual being enjoying this human experience. So don't worry, be happy, and feel good. I'll see you tomorrow.